Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name's Rob and today we're going to do something that we haven't done in a couple of years. That is the rollback review. So I've been getting some comments asking me how have I gotten so proficient at SOLIDWORKS, and mostly it's just a function of practice, just looking around the room and seeing if you can model something. And you'd be surprised about how many things can provide a pretty decent challenge. But there's another aspect that I want to talk about, and that is observing other people's work and see how they do the things that they do. Two different people can look at the same challenge and model it two different ways and both be pretty legit, equally correct in many cases. And that's what we'll do here. And I know I can make my own part, but I want to show you my method of how I break down a model and try and sleuth how a part was created pretty much. And to help me, I have this. So you may recognize this. This is the Combadge from Star Trek. I didn't model this. But together we will find out how this was modeled and see if we can even improve upon the modeling technique. I don't know who modeled this. This was taken from the SOLIDWORKS tech blog. So if you didn't know, saw a minion there for a sec. But if you didn't know, you can actually go to the SOLIDWORKS tech blog, so blogs.solidworks.com, and just search part reviewer and you'll get a bunch of hits for different parts that have been posted to the blog. They provide you with a model file and you can study them. What's super great about it is that these part reviewer parts in particular all have comments on them. So if I hover over this sketch here, you see comment says rough outline of the height and width. So they are actually putting comments on each of the features, basically explaining why they exist or why they chose to do this the way that they did, which is awesome. So you can actually just observe the comments, but in this video, I'm going to ignore the comments for the most part. I might bring one up now and then, but I want to show you if there was no comments at all, which is the majority of SOLIDWORKS parts you'll find. How can you possibly guess how it was made? So with these SOLIDWORKS tech blog part review parts, there's two main ways of studying them. There's one where the traditional way where you get the rollback bar and you pull it up and just step it down one at a time and just take a look at what appears. Or you can actually search, go to command search and go to and just type in part and just part reviewer. If you click that, you'll get a pane on the right hand side and just hit this little play button. And what this does is that this will automatically step you feature by feature. And if that feature has a comment, it'll display that here. So that's fine and all, but like I said, most SOLIDWORKS parts out there don't have comments. So I'm not going to be using this method. I'm going to be using the traditional method. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. This rollback bar, this blue thing, I'm going to take that and drag that all the way up, just like that. And yeah, you notice on the side here, we have these 4 columns. That is not usually, come back here. That is not usually showing. So if you go to this arrow and toggle this back and forth, you'll see you can hide the column. And this is basically, a quick property apply. If you want to hide things, you can just click things on this column. So if I want to show the front plane, I can click that and it'll show the front plane. Click it again to hide it. I'll be making use of this throughout the video. So let's go roll forward to the first thing, the overall proportion. I'll click this to show it. Nothing appears still, but that's because there's this view filter here. If I go here, sketch is probably turned off, and that does seem to be the case. So I'll click that, and now all my sketches are showing. And, just by the name, overall proportion, this person was going for an overall height and width. And yeah, it's okay to use sketches and not use them for features. If you want to make a sketch and have that as guiding geometry, that's totally fine. Then you have the arrowhead shape here. Let me edit it and see what it's made of. So if I click on this, okay, so 2 splines it would seem. And then we have these circles. Yeah, I'm not sure what these are for yet, but it looks like maybe to be a guide for a future fillet. Although me personally, I would use that with the fillet tool. Let me go out of there and proceed to the bottom spline. Okay, so here we go. I know what it was going for. So he put these circles here, or whoever modeled this. Actually, I can find out if I right click and say feature properties. So I don't know who Joshua is, but he's the one who modeled it. Alright, so what Joshua did here was he sketched this circle, which is in construction geometry, it says construction line, in order to add this relation. So he had the spline going up like this, but wanted it to touch right at this point, probably setting it up as for the perfect distance. And the same thing over here. And then if I roll this down, all right, so that came all at once. So in fact, I rolled over two items. I rolled over the base extrude sketch and the extrude itself. So in order to prevent that from happening, going two steps at a time whenever a sketch is absorbed, that is, the sketch is just kind of hanging out under here. If I hit Control and T on my keyboard, it'll put everything in exact order. So now I can study the base extrude sketch by itself. And if I hide these other sketches, all right, so it appears that they were converted from those previous sketches. And are these sketch fillets? So no, these are not sketch fillets. So these were converted from those same construction circles and then possibly trimmed with the power trim tool. Yeah, pretty interesting way of doing it. Yeah, you can also tell that these all came from convert entities because they get these on-edge relations. To my knowledge, there's no way to add an on-edge relation without using a convert entity. So let me get out of there. So before we get to the actual extrude, the way I would have done this personally is with a sketch picture, actually. So I would have gotten a picture off Google or something, if it was available, and put it on a sketch. I can actually use the scale tool to make sure it's the right height, and then just trace it in another sketch, just with everything, with splines or analytical geometry like an arc or whatever, and then work from there. I don't think one way is better than the other. The main downfall of using a sketch picture is that you need a picture. Sometimes you don't have that, and the best thing you can do is this. But let's go ahead into the base extrude, and yeah, looking at the sketch here was done with respect to the mid plane, which is good. I always recommend to do that. It makes mirroring things a lot easier. So that's very good technique there. Let's see if anything interesting was done here. Yeah, and actually, yeah, this thing just explained the thing that I did. So, yeah, those are my, my sleuth abilities that I've developed over the years. So I hit OK to that. And now here's where things get interesting. Let me hide this sketch. Remove fillets, delete face. So the only fillets I possibly see are this. So if I roll past that. Okay, so he deletes both fillets. So remember, I actually use delete face, the delete face command in one of my other videos, the one with the babam in it. I'll put a card here somewhere. But basically what it does, when you select two faces, it deletes them away like, the command implies. But then if you have it on delete and patch, it'll patch it using the surrounding surfaces. So you have these surrounding surfaces here, and you can extend these surfaces and basically have them meet at a point. So if you imagine there's a virtual sharp here that is not showing, with delete and patch applied to a fillet, you can actually obtain the location of that virtual sharp. It's a powerful tool, as you might expect. And yeah, in this case, the virtual sharp goes way, way out here. It just keeps the equation of the spline going, and it just so happened to end over here, which is probably too much, and he's going to trim it. And next feature is a fillet. So this is pretty interesting. So let us ask the question: if he had a fillet there before, why did he delete it and then literally add it again? It's kind of weird, right? So my thoughts are there is something special about this fillet that makes it either impossible to sketch or very difficult to sketch. So let's go ahead and see what that is. And yeah, I see over here, down here, the profile is set to curvature continuous, because with a regular fillet, you usually set it to circular. But what this guy did is that he has it set to curvature continuous. You can see that it bulged out a little bit, but the main point of a curvature continuous end condition really is the smoothness of the two surfaces merging together. It's a little bit smoother and more appealing in many cases. And yeah, look, he mentions it up at the top here. So let me show you exactly what the difference is with curvature display. If I go to my evaluate, so actually let me go back here. So that's the analytical fillet. So if I go to curvature, remember what I said about this in my other video, the hat video pretty much. When curvature display is on, any particular radius will get a certain color. If the face is completely flat, it'll get black as a color. So that explains this. If I hover my mouse over, it says curvature 0, as it should. You can see that this was done with a spline and has this constantly changing curvature, like that. And even over here, even though this is all blue, it's very gently changing. So you get to this curvature, and then all of a sudden, it snaps to this curvature of 16. So that leads to a little visual inconsistency. And it can be detrimental if your part is shiny and it might reflect light in a weird way. So I'm going to roll back forward and see what the blunt fillet did. Alright, so instead of being a solid red fillet, you can see it continues that blue face into the new face just a little bit, and then gently changes the color into this, this red amount of curvature. So it ends up making it a little bit sharper, but it also makes the transition a little smoother. So all in all, that was a great tool. Any other ways I could have done this? Let me think. I think the only way you could have done this is if you sketch this thing out manually with a spline. But then you'd be dealing with a spline with at least degree 5 in order to accommodate the curvature continuity. I think this way is easier, so I would have gone for this. Alright, what else? So bottom line reference sketch. Okay, so it looks like he sets a line tangent to this thing as a reference of how to cut this off. Alright, so this thing is sharp fillet. I wonder if he does the same thing. Yeah, I still have my curvature display, so immediately I can tell this was done with curvature continuity. Yeah, it all blends it in together really nice and smoothly. Although there's a bit of a flat spot here. That's not too big of a deal. Moving forward, we have the top fillet. Okay, so I guess it was just this thing. Top fillet. Yeah, and again, the curvature continuous fillet. Making this look nice and smooth as possible instead of like all of a sudden, you know, turns into a perfect arc. It's a little jarring. Alright, so it looks like my next command is a shell, so let me turn off curvature and see what that's about. Okay, that's a good play. Yeah, that's pretty simple. Just select the top face to be removed and say that you want all the walls to be 0.85 of an inch thick. And, you know, SOLIDWORKS will create all these lovely faces for you. Alright, front corner fillets, that's probably all on the inside, and yes, that is correct. All the same size and all curvature continuous. Alright, sketch 22. This one does not have a name. Alright, so sketch 22 appears to be... Looks like he just converted... Let's see, let's go in here. So he converted this as an entity, and I think this is just a regular line snapped at the two ends. Okay, so I wonder if he's going to cut it off or something like that. I mean, the next feature is a cut. Alright, so he ends up cutting it off. That's really interesting. I'm not sure why he does this. And is he going to re-add it? Let's see. What is sketch 24? Ooh, sketch 24 is a little unhappy about something. Okay, I see that he's just kind of adjusting the shape a little bit. I don't know if I would have done it that way. Alright, so besides the overdefined sketch, I'll take a look at that in a sec. Okay, so he actually does fix the flat spot. He notices it and fixes the flat spot. So before you have a little bit of a flat spot there, and then after, it's even smoother. Except the sketch is upset for some reason. Let's go ahead and check it out. This is interesting. I'm not sure what this line is supposed to be. Maybe one of these are redundant. Let me see if I hit overdefine and then hit diagnose. So if I remove equal curvature, that's one solution. Or remove yeah, let me remove one of these tangents. Hit OK. It's under define now, but what if I add a tangent here? Okay, it doesn't like that. I think I'll leave that as is. I guess a play I could try and do is fully define sketch. Let me see. Alright, so it just define all the control vertices without any design intent, but I'll just leave it like that. It's fully defined and it's relatively happy. Actually, well, there's this line here. I'm gonna delete it and see what happens. Alright, nothing. I don't think it was serving any purpose. Yeah, we'll just leave it like that. So the sketch seems to be happy. The curvature still looks great, so I'm gonna consider that fixed. And let's keep going. This one also has no label. That's interesting. Looks like he converted this face onto this back face. Interesting technique. And then he extrude cuts this. That is something I think could be done with a mirror. Yeah, let me see. So first let's section this. Yeah, those two lengths seem identical. If I click this, 1.02 and 1.02. So yeah, why can't we do this with a mirror? That would actually save me having to make a sketch and a feature. So in a case like this where you think you've come up with a better way, just try it out. Let's see what happens. So let me roll above this, because he did model this with this thing perfectly centered. So yeah, let's try it out. If I go to my features, go to my mirror, front plane, features to mirror, this is the shell. The preview looks pretty good, but it didn't do anything. So this is probably why he went for it. So I think I know what's going on here. So you have to remember that whenever you use a mirror command and you use the feature command, it doesn't simply just kind of make the same thing on the other side, even though it does that 99% of the time. Specifically, it rebuilds this feature so it enters all the same parameters with faces selected on the other side. So it'll put the geometry on the other side, but still run the feature with the same selections. This is problematic with a shell in particular, because if you look at the shell, one of its parameters is to remove this face. So when you mirror a feature, it would somehow have to know that it needs to pick the other face. And unfortunately, it's not clever enough to do that by itself. But not all is lost. So there actually is a way to mirror something without it having to recompute the feature, without rebuilding it. And if I go in here and switch it from features to mirror to faces to mirror, so let me clear this selections and go to faces to mirror. If I just pick this face, and if I pick all these little faces, so right click there and say select tangency. So that is looking pretty promising. Hit OK, and it worked. So basically a face mirror just says, here are these faces right here, literally just put them on the other side. Don't worry about recomputing anything. So which way do I think is better, the mirror or redoing the cut? And actually, I think you could go either way in this, because the mirror requires a little bit of extra selections, that I had to put those 7 faces in there. It's probably the same amount of work to just, start a sketch, click on that, hit convert entities, and then quickly cut it through. Personally, I think I would prefer the mirror, but the simplicity of the extrude cut, if you go for that, that's fine too. What else? Thin center section move face. If I do that. Okay, that's interesting. Let me hide the sketch away. So it went from here to here, and this thing is failing too. And actually, I know why, because it's missing the back face, isn't it? Yeah, I probably picked these 2 faces, but since this back face belongs to the mirror 1, this command doesn't recognize the face that belongs to this feature. So instead, I'm just going to suppress it and just leave it to the back. Yeah, there we go, the backside extrude cut. Yeah, because the 2 faces were picked, and basically, in a nutshell, the move face command didn't recognize the face because it came from another feature. But yeah, this is really interesting. So he just thins this out a little bit by 1/10 of an inch. Actually, I can think of a way to save this feature, and it goes all the way back to the shell. So if I go here, I can go pick that, and remember, with your shell you have multi-thickness settings. Oh, but the face doesn't exist yet. No, you do have to do it that way, because what I was thinking is that in that interface, which is not here, so let me get out of here. Basically, I was thinking of picking this face that is highlighted right now and put it in the pink box, because in the pink box you could actually tell it to be thinner or thicker if you want, but it doesn't exist at this point, so you can't, and thus move face is the way to go. So yeah, that I learned something here. If you think you have something better, try it out, and then you discover, maybe this is a better way, or I wasn't considering this. Either way, you're learning more SolidWorks, and it's great. So I'll roll all the way down there. We have it looking like that. Another unnamed sketch. Oh, but now it looks like a logo is being cut out. So this was extruded. Oh, let me undo. There we go. So the sketch looks like that. Extrude cut. So you may notice that the sketch up here has a certain icon. It's this weird L-shaped thingy. But this sketch here has another shape. It's got like a, little triangle thing with a circle cut out of it. So what does that mean? I get that question a lot. What does that even mean? Well, it means you have multiple contours. That is, you have all these lines intersecting each other, and it makes these multiple regions. You can have this if you want, but the only thing is that probably when I open up this feature, there's going to be a section for contours, and it's going to have selections in it. And I was right. So if you leave these contours completely open, SolidWorks doesn't know what you want. Does it say, do you want just this part? Do you want this part? Do you want the whole thing? Do you want this region? SolidWorks doesn't know what you want. So whenever you have these more complicated crossing sketches, you're gonna have to tell SolidWorks what you want. But I can pick this and this. And yeah, so actually an improvement over Joshua's pick. So if I go out and go back into it, you can see that he has 6 region selections, so he had to pick all 6 individually. You can save 4 clicks by just, instead of picking the region, you just pick on the edge, and that grabs the whole contour. So just grab the 2 contours, hit OK, and there you go. And that should be it. You save 4 clicks. not a big deal, but it can definitely add up over the, very long multi-hour course of using SolidWorks. After that, apply some fillets, it looks like. Yeah, and again, same with the curvature continuity. And these two unlabeled sketches, what are you? Okay, so I guess it's more logos. And that appears to be it. So that was a Combadge in a nutshell. Overall, a very well modeled part. A couple things you can change here and there, but nothing too egregious. It'd be pretty easy to change and tweak the design a little bit if you wanted to. And yeah, so good job, Joshua. This was a pretty good model you made here. But at any rate, just let me know down in the comments if you want to see more rollback reviews just like this one. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell for notifications, so that way you know when I have more videos, you can see when they come out. But other than that, you have a good day, and I'll see you next time.